Hello and welcome back to the Curiosity Club. How are you doing? Hope you're managing to stay entertained at home. I know it's tricky. Hope you're doing lots of reading. This is our third video, so if you've missed the other two, make sure you go on our channel and catch up. Today we are going to be exploring the lovely story of The Last Tree by Emily Haworth-Booth. Now this story has lots of new and tricky vocabulary, so it's really important that you have your curiosity journal with you and you're writing down the new words that you learn. That way you can come back to those words and you won't forget them. Let's start. Once upon a time, a group of friends were looking for a place to live. The desert was too hot, the valley was too wet, and the mountain was too windy. Nowhere was quite right until they saw the first tree. And came to the forest where dappled light fell through the leaves and a gentle breeze twisted between the branches. How does that description make you feel about this place? Where dappled light fell through the leaves and a gentle breeze twisted through the branches. The breeze is almost dancing, isn't it? Makes it feel like it's quite a beautiful place. What does the word dappled mean? Dappled light fell through the leaves. I'm sure you've seen dappled light before without realising it. It's when the light comes through the leaves and it's almost spots of sunlight. All summer long the friends lived and played among the trees and slept on the mossy floor. When winter came, the breeze turned colder and they took a few branches for firewood. But where they had taken branches, the rain came through and put out their fires. They chopped down a few whole trees to build shelters, but that made the forest colder still. So they cut down some more trees to turn their shelters into cabins. What have you noticed about the trees? How have they changed? Soon it seemed that the more wood they took, the more they needed to take. When summer returned, the sun blazed down and there weren't enough trees left to shade them. Yet a few more branches made very pleasant porches. Before long, the people became skilled carpenters, and all summer they worked hard to make the perfect village. What do you think about this village? Do you think they need all of these things? Did they need to cut down all of those trees to build these things? But when the autumn winds came through again, they whipped through the spaces where the trees used to be, throwing all the villagers' fine work into disarray. Is disarray a new word? The wind threw the villagers' fine work into disarray. So let's look at that word disarray. The root word is array. And you might have used arrays in maths before and know that it's when something is organised and neat. So the prefix dis changes the root word to mean the opposite. So disarray means that it was a big mess. So you can see the wind completely made a mess of the village. They needed a new plan, one that would solve all of their problems forever. Let's tie everything down with a rope. That'll never work. Well, we have to do something. We could catch the wind in big bottles. And there is the answer. We need more wood. So, they cut down all the trees still standing. All that is except one last tree. That was no good to anyone. What about that one? Oh, leave it. It's really more of a weed. And with the wood they built a wall. What fun they had working together to build it, and how proud they were when it was done. Stillness descended like a blanket. The clothes stayed put. The plant grew tall and straight. At last, the place really was just right. Did you notice that simile the author chose to use? Stillness descended like a blanket. So remember, a simile is when something is compared to something else. So here the stillness, the way that it descended, came down, is compared to a blanket. So the stillness came down on the village like a blanket. What I'd like you to do, and you might need to work with someone to do this, is come up with another simile for the way the stillness descended. The stillness descended like something else. So think of something else that you know that might descend. Okay, I'm sure you came up with some beautiful and interesting similes. You might have come up with stillness descended like rain, stillness descended like autumn leaves, stillness descended like the curtains at the end of a theatre performance. There's lots of different ideas you could come up with there. So stillness descended like a blanket. I like that. But with nothing to look at but the wall, something happened to the people too. In time, they started to forget their games and songs, and soon the happy village had grown cold and hard, for now the villagers had walls around their hearts. What do you think the author means by that? The walls around the heart. Do they really build walls around their hearts? What does the author mean by that? I saw the neighbours looking at me strangely yesterday. I think they're jealous of our cabbages. They were peeking through our window. I saw it. Perhaps we ought to reinforce the door. Fence in the garden. Board up the windows. It had taken all the wood they had to build the wall, and so before too long, each parent, thinking they were being clever, said the same thing to their child. Remember that last tree? The one more like a weed, tiny and weak. We need to stay inside and guard the house. So will you take this axe and go up beyond the wall, see if it's still there, chop it down and bring us back the wood? Get it before the neighbours do. But when the children, creeping out beyond the wall, found each other by the little tree, they soon forgot their task. They laughed and ran and played and sang and tended the tree and gathered its seeds. Each day they visited, it grew a little taller and more proud, until they knew that they could never cut down the last tree. Meanwhile, each night, their parents asked their children why they hadn't brought back wood. But when the children talked about the tree and how it made them feel, their parents wouldn't come outside to look or even listen. How do you think the tree made the children feel? That's when the children knew what they had to do. They started to bring home wood, but it wasn't from the last tree. And when it was delivered plank by plank, their parents didn't question why it was so long and straight and smooth. All they said was, "This'll do just fine," and "Oh, that's good." Where do you think they bought the wood from? They boarded and banged and fenced and reinforced and never once looked out or up. It was only when the wind rushed into the village, rattling their boarded up windows and knocking down their new fences, that they ran outside and saw that despite all their new wood, the last tree still stood. In the bright daylight, they remembered that they were old friends, not enemies, and when they heard their children playing in the tree, saw how the cool wind twisted gently through its branches, and the sunshine fell in dappled shadows to the ground beneath, they were reminded of how things used to be. Then all at once they understood what they had done, and how perhaps they could begin again. Did you notice how the description again, just like at the beginning of the story, is one that's beautiful and gentle? What fun they had taking down the wall, and how proud they were when it was done. As they planted seeds and tended the saplings, they talked and sang, and as the children grew, a new forest grew with them. And the last tree became the first. Okay, so a couple of really interesting ideas in that story. First of all, tell me about the children in this story, because they're almost the heroes of the story, aren't they? But they didn't listen to what their parents asked them to do, did they? They didn't listen to their parents' instruction. In fact, they did something different. So were they naughty children? Or were they children that maybe knew better? Is it possible to know better than an adult? So these children were rebellious. Rebellious means that you sometimes break rules. Were they breaking rules to be naughty or to be bad? Or were they doing it for something that was important and good? What were they trying to protect? That's right, the tree, the last tree. What might have happened, I wonder, if they had cut down that last tree? How would that have affected the village? So that story is a reminder about how important it is to take care of our environment. And some of you might be lucky enough to be able to go out for your daily walks and be out in nature. So it's a reminder to be grateful and to make sure you're looking after our environment. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that story as much as I did. I will see you next time. Bye!